Well, hi, everybody. I'm here today with my great friend, Rodney Hu. So Rodney is the founder of 209 Digital. He's also the host of a really popular Healthtech Hustle podcast, which is a must listen to for anybody in the health tech marketing space. And I'm really delighted that Rodney today is here to talk about so he's got a great webinar today about how you can become an authority. So basically how you can build your brand through content, social media, and those kind of techniques. So you're going to learn three things today. You're going to learn about the power of collaboration to become an authority. You're going to learn how to get the most out of your content, and then kind of some Trojan horse things into how you can turn attraction into an opportunity. So with that, I'm going to hand over to Rodney, and Rodney, take it away.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks for the intro. I'm excited to be here. I got a pretty special presentation for you guys. So let me just share my screen real quick. Oh yeah, give me
Oh yeah, hold on. Let me
this.
just enable you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is gonna be a fun one. All right, cool. Yeah, so this is my authority framework, is what I call it. Can you see it?
Yep, looks
See?
great.
Cool. Yeah, so this is my three secrets to really growing your audience and establishing brand awareness in your industry. And I really found out this framework by going through the process myself. But this quote right here pretty much sums up the whole framework, which goes, one piece of a log creates a small fire, adequate to warm you up. Add just a few more pieces to blast an immense bonfire large enough to warm up your entire circle of friends. And so, right now in your company or in your business, you may have that spark or that small fire. And with this framework, I want to teach you the additional pieces that you can use to grow that fire into a larger fire and influence a wider audience than more than just yourself. But a little bit of background of who I am, aside from what Adam's intro is, I actually have a healthcare background. Um, I'm an MRI tech by trade, but what really got me excited about the health tech industry is that I went through the journey myself as a patient. And in the process, I was seeing a lot of cool technologies and advancements and machines. And I work in healthcare technology, and there's a lot of stuff that I didn't know about. And so I had a goal of sharing that message sharing what other people are doing with as many people as I can. And so I had an idea and a spark. But when I really tried to reach out to people and collaborate with them and really try to create valuable content and help people, like, no one really wanted to talk to me. I had no authority, I had no credibility, I had really no interest from people. I just seemed like another internet guy to them. So I started learning about the power of a platform and how you can leverage that to kind of create new opportunities. And so I ended up creating my own podcast, and that led me to a bunch of new opportunities, whether it be for business or being invited to speak at events and different stuff like that. And I really just documented the process and took those principles and created a framework. And I want to share that framework with you guys so that you guys can apply that to your business. And so here's the big picture strategy for growing your audience and establishing brand awareness in your industry. Really comes down to three secrets. Secret number one is to leverage other people's audience, even if you don't have a large audience of your own. Secret number two is to systemize your content to attract your ideal audience. And then secret number three is a Trojan horse strategy to turn attention into opportunity. And that one's going to be a fun one. But let's just jump right into it. Secret number one is leveraging other people's audience, even if you don't have a large audience of your own. So this is going to help you grow your credibility, grow your brand awareness in a specific industry because you're collaborating with other people and you're leveraging their authority and their platforms. And so here's a framework of kind of what that looks like. And so imagine you're in the middle and you collaborate with other people and you take advantage and you leverage their audience that they already have, their following, and a certain percentage is going to end up funneling and flowing back to you. And I really came up with this idea when I started looking at the Avengers movie, the Endgame, and that was one of the highest grossing movies of all time. And I went back to look at like how they did it, and the PR campaign that they used before the movie was out is like you see Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, like they're all going out and getting on other people's shows like Oprah or the Tonight Show or the Late Show, and they're just getting their message out in front of everybody. Wherever the attention is, they're in front of them. And so they're leveraging that audience and bringing awareness to the movie, to what they're trying to spread. And so what you need to do is figure out who your target audience is, like what blogs do they read, what YouTube channels do they consume, what podcasts are they listening to, and then figure out like who your target audience is, like what's their pains, what's their desires, and then just figure out where who already has their attention and then go out and collaborate with them. So for example, on the left side, I have a screenshot of the Medical Futurist, which is a pretty popular healthcare channel with over 40,000 subscribers. You can contact them and see what kind of content are they creating and kind of what sort of value can you provide to their audience. And then on the right side, I have another example. If you just go to Spotify and then type in health tech or digital health and go to podcast, all these podcasters right here are examples of people that you could reach out to, people that you can collaborate with, people who already have a platform, a distribution platform that you can leverage to get your message out. A little fun fact, the first podcast on the top left is actually my podcast, Healthtech Hustle. Shameless plug. And then the next thing to think about is really, is it your platform or is it their platform? And both of them are equally as powerful, but the strategy may be a little bit different. And so I'll kind of give an example of each. So here's an example of people using your platform, their own platform to kind of grow their own. So the example I got here is a YouTube channel called First We Feast, and they have a show called The Hot Ones, in which they interview influencers and celebrities while they're eating hot sauce or hot chicken wings, hot wings. And so what they're doing is they're leveraging the other people's credibility that come onto their platform because they already have a following. And then naturally, a percentage of that following will go and check out this platform. And so if you look, they collaborate with actors, actresses, comedians, scientists, celebrity chefs, and all these people have a following and they bring their following to their platform. And over time, their platform grew and grew and grew. And the size of the guests grew and grew and grew. And so that's how they were able to leverage their own platform. And now the next example is how people are able to leverage other people's platforms to share their message. And in this example, I have a dance crew, the Jabberwockies. They hit the scene in like 2008 as America's best dance crew. But it's now 2020 and they're still super relevant and super popular amongst the entertainment industry. But how are they doing that? It's because they figure out where the attention is, where their target audience is, and they just collaborate with different people who have their audience. For example, Hip Hop Harry on the top left, similar industry, dance industry, but at a smaller target audience. On the bottom left, this dance crew's from the West Coast, and the Golden State Warriors is a basketball team from the West Coast. And so when they made it to the finals, they performed at their halftime show. And these dance crew, these dance members, a lot of them are Filipino. And so they collaborated with somebody with a Filipino audience, comedian Joe Coy on the top right. And then dance industry is always going to intertwine with the music industry. So they're constantly collaborating with the top artists in the game so that the exposure that they get naturally goes back to them. So that's kind of like two different ways that you can leverage the power of a platform to really grow your message and like increase your brand awareness. And so like some questions to ask at this stage is like, who's your target audience? Like who already has the attention of your target audience? How can you create a win-win scenario for collaboration? And is it your platform or is it their platform? And then what are other people in the industry, in your industry, doing and having success with? That way you don't have to recreate the wheel. You can kind of just model after what works. And then secret number two is to systemize your content to attract your ideal audience. So now that like you're collaborating with people within your target market, your target audience, you want to be able to maximize each piece of content that you create. And I recommend that when you do reach out to collaborate with these people, you're creating long form content, whether it's video or audio or text, but it's long form, something 15, 20 minutes long, excuse me, or if it's in text, maybe 10,000 words or more. But you want to be able to maximize each piece that you create. So how do you do that? After you create the long form content, you want to repurpose and create different types of content. And so here you have free content and you have premium content. But for now, we're going to focus on free. So if you recorded a video interview with somebody in your target market, 15, 20 minutes, you can transcribe that, take that audio, put that on a podcast, transcribe the audio, create a blog post, take little 30 to 60-second snippets from this 15-minute piece of content, and you can create an audiogram, videogram. You can create quotes or images or infographics. There's so many different ways that you can turn one piece of content into many pieces of content, with the whole goal of getting people to your premium content, which we'll kind of dive into after this next slide. So here's kind of what the whole overall framework looks like. Creating long piece of pillar content, you're repurposing it, distributing it across all platforms where your target audience is. So you're creating a sense of omnipresence. And the whole goal is to drive them back down to premium content. So when you have free content, it's just free value. But when you have premium content, it's a value exchange. So there's it's a little bit more premium. It's a content upgrade. So you can have things like ebooks, getting people to sign up for webinars, events, trainings, courses, maybe trials, case studies. These are all different examples of premium content that you want to exchange. Your target audience, you want to exchange value with them in exchange for a name and email address. And so here's some healthcare examples I just threw in for you guys. So the bottom three companies, Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute, I put them in there because if you look up anything related to healthcare, any like macro topics, most likely 90% of the time an article is going to pop up from one of these three companies. That's how good they are at being wherever the information is, wherever people's interest is, they have a piece of content to be there. So they're pretty much omnipresent. And the two gentlemen on the top, left and right side, are healthcare influencers. They consistently collaborate with other people within the industry. They consistently create content. They consistently are putting out content to reach a wider audience. So if I was you guys, what I would do is go and look at the content they create, what's their strategy, and what is their approach, and what can you take from that and model into your own strategy. And so some questions to ask at this point are: what content does your target audience consume? How can you maximize each content you create? Which social media platforms you will use for distribution? What is the goal of the content? And do you have any old content that you can refresh and repurpose? And I know this is big, especially for the healthcare industry, because there's a lot of doctors and the CEOs have already done content in the past, but they just leave it there. And so why this is important is because you can then take that old content, repurpose it, and now bring it to the top of your newsfeed. Keep yourself top of mind instead of having to recreate new content from scratch every time. And so third and final one is a Trojan Horse strategy to turn attention into opportunity. And I'm not talking about Trojan Horse in a negative aspect where you kind of deceive your opponent and then take advantage of them at their weak point. I'm talking about giving value upfront to decrease the resistance and tension between two relationships so that you are to maximize on an opportunity when it's presented because you've positioned yourself to do so. And so how are we doing that? How are we positioning ourselves better? And so the purpose of this stage is really to indoctrinate people into your world and position yourself as an authority and really nurture these new relationships that you're building from phase one and phase two. And once you do bring that attention and attract them to you, you want to simplify the amount of decisions that they make. Because if you give people 1,000 different options, they'll pick none. But if you give them two, they'll pick one. And so just simplifying it, because if you confuse, you'll lose. So keep that in mind. So the first thing to do is really just determine your goal. Begin with the end in mind, and then reverse engineer the process from there. So what is the goal of your campaign, or what is the goal of your business at this point? Are you trying to generate leads? Are you trying to educate an existing market? Are you trying to drive more sales? And then from there, once you determine which bucket or which category that you're trying to accomplish, then you can figure out, like, all right, am I trying to build an email list or grow community? Do I want to drive more traffic to a webinar or event? Or do I want more schedules or referrals and or booked appointments? So once you have like that goal, that conversion in mind, you can reverse engineer the process to doing so. And then that's when you want to choose the funnel to achieve that goal, the step-by-step process that somebody who has no idea of who you are to somebody who becomes a stale. Like, what is that process that you want them to go through? And what content do you create at each stage? And so this is kind of the framework of, once you start getting that attention, that traffic, they come in and you have that value exchange with the premium content. Now they're indoctrinated into your world. You're able to qualify them, sort and screen them into where you're only working with the 8, 9s, and 10s as far as like your ideal clients on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best client. So ultimately you get that win. But one important thing I want to bring attention to you guys is to beware of your shadow funnel. So like, what is a shadow funnel? Everybody knows what the regular funnel is, when someone comes and opts in or converts on that call to action, but the shadow funnel is the process that somebody goes through before they actually even decide to take action on whatever your offer is. And so what usually happens is, when people become aware of your company, they end up going down that Google rabbit hole where they start doing their own research, looking up credibility indicators, forming their own opinions, looking up like testimonials, reviews, case studies on what the results that you guys say you provide. So they go through that entire process, and at the end, they form an opinion, and it's either good or bad. And if it's good, they'll move on to the next stage. And so our goal at this stage is to really accelerate people through the shadow funnel, and then not only accelerate them through, but have it be a positive outcome so that they actually go through the regular funnel. And so how can we accelerate people through that? We leverage social proof, other credibility indicators. And this is where stage 1 and stage 2 come in, because when people see your name attached with other industry professionals, other influencers within the same target market, psychologically that instantly upgrades you, the value of you and your brand, your company, in the minds of your prospect. And if you're consistently creating content and putting content out and being active and being consistent and engaging with that community as well, like I told you to do in phase 2, then all of those tactics and strategies really help to accelerate prospects through the shadow funnel and into your regular funnel. But most people don't tell you to be aware of that. But I got you. And so some questions to ask at this stage is, what is the result that you want? And then what are the actions that you want your traffic to take once they come into your funnel? And then what processes need to be set up in order to handle all that incoming traffic, not just the content, the design, all the tech automation, all of that stuff. And then, is your shadow funnel helping or hurting your strategy? And then how can you accelerate people through your shadow funnel? Is your online presence optimized in a way, when they research you, are you popping up? Are good things about you popping up? And so here's a recap of kind of just what we went over. The 3 secrets. Number 1 is to leverage other people's audience, even if you don't have a large audience of your own. Number 2 is to systemize your content to attract your ideal audience. Number 3 is a Trojan Horse strategy to turn attention into opportunity. So how can I make this easier for you guys to understand and comprehend this concept? What does this all look like together? Here's all the pieces of the puzzle. Here's my authority framework. You have the first one, collaborating with other people, leveraging their audience to grow your own, so that they come to your free content, that pillar content that you repurpose and redistribute across all channels which your target audience resides. And the whole goal is to drive them back to the premium content, whether it's a webinar, whether it's opt-in to generate more leads, or whether it's to book a demo to go down your sales process. So once you indoctrinate them into your world, you're able to qualify them, sift, sort, and screen them, keep the good, get rid of the bad leads. And until ultimately you end up with a win. So this is the whole framework, the step-by-step process, each piece of the puzzle, each piece that you need to really grow your spark into a flame, into a bonfire, really. And so what sort of results can you get from this? And so here's an example of how you can start more conversations with people in your target market, filling up your calendar, because having more conversations just opens more doors. More doors that opens leads to more opportunities. And that's exactly what it happened to me, whether it's me being invited to other people's podcasts, or people wanting to be on my podcast, or even people giving me free stuff because they liked what I was doing, or people who've seen the work that I've put out and want me to and express interest in having me do that for them. Like a whole bunch of things happen once you start having conversations and putting your message out into the world and connecting with the right people who have a message similar to what you're trying to do. And so, yeah, you guys now have a framework to really grow your audience, establish your brand awareness, and really, this all has to do and be related around authority marketing, which is the strategic process of systematically positioning a person or organization as a leader and the expert. And I want to leave you guys with one final thought, is to play chess, not checkers. Instead of making moves linear, think as a whole system, figure out what is that end result you're trying to get, how you can reverse engineer that process. And so don't think ahead, begin with the end in mind, and then reverse engineer from there. So the next steps for you guys is just make a list. Who can you collaborate with? I made it easy for you. I went to digital health top 150 companies. I would go research all these companies and see what opportunities for collaboration and content creation is available between whatever you're doing and whatever these companies have. So make a list, reach out, and then just be consistent with the strategy. And I guarantee you're going to grow your audience, your influence, your authority within your industry. So that being said, thank you guys for listening to this framework, to my presentation.
Great.
Awesome. Let me
Well,
stop.
thank you. Well, I really like the simplicity. It's very actionable. I really, really like it a lot. It sort of actually made me think. So, how have you used it for your own business in building, in building out Healthtech Hustle to, it's one of the leading podcasts. You've gone from kind of nothing to being one of the top podcasts in the space in 6 months, 9 months, something like that. And how have you done that for using your three-step model? And also, if you, as much as you can, how's that converted into, paying your bills?
Yeah, for sure. And so I really started the podcast to try to sell my marketing services, because that's what I was educating myself. But I was like, all right, let me just try to create a podcast around a specific target market. I already had a background in healthcare technology, so that's kind of how I ended up on health tech. But it's crazy, is the hidden benefit that happened from all this is like, by me creating the podcast and consistently like putting out content to this target audience, like some people that I would talk to, they would ask about my services just because they went through my shadow funnel, and the information that they saw was all related to the video content that I would be creating for other people. So I had a certain percentage of people ask for that.
Explain it.
And
Explain the
if they
shadow.
were
That's
interested,
the one bit
we'll
I didn't
follow up
quite
from
get.
there. But what's been more interesting is,
I'm sorry. Explain the
yeah,
shadow funnel again. I didn't quite understand that.
so it's like the regular funnels, like you have an opt-in page, the thank you page, and the lead magnet, or the lead magnet delivery
Yep.
email. But before people even decide to take action on that, they go and do their own research, and they go through their own funnel. that's why I call it a shadow funnel, because it's not necessarily a
I
step by
see.
step,
Got it.
but
Got it.
it's
Got it. Got it.
just the psychological process that people
Yeah.
go through before they feel comfortable making that.
It's almost like a gated versus an ungated funnel.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so they're looking at things like testimonials, reviews, like does your website look professional? Like what sort of content are you having on your personal brand and your company brand? It's like all these little different things that people are looking for when they're researching you as a person and you as a company.
That's great.
But like to get back to your question is like, how have I used this framework?
Yeah.
And when I started creating the podcast for my own services, what's crazy is that other companies within the health tech industry or within the healthcare industry, as my network started growing, was like, hey, I know a guy who produces a podcast, and I know somebody who's looking for a podcast, or I'm looking for a podcast. Can you kind of just duplicate this process for my business? And so that's kind of
Got it.
how all like new opportunities were coming. Like I had a goal initially for using it to grow my business with my video content, but
Yep.
by just doing it over and over and people seeing like the kind of content I put out, they were like, just can you do that for us? And so I was like, okay. Then I just started doing that, and then still creating content for the podcast, and then that's growing. And then as that grows, people see that I have a larger audience, and now I have people approaching me for like maybe sponsorships and other collaboration opportunities. And so it's like, it's crazy how just you stick to this framework, like you start building connections, building the relationships, and like that's really the hardest part when it comes to this whole online game, because there's so many people out there and there's like so much, people can only give their attention to so many people. So it's like when you do something like this and you collaborate with people on a long form piece of content, you're building that trust, you're building that like and trust factor in your favor.
Yeah, I mean, you know, what sort of kind of came to mind as you were talking about that is the notion that it's one of my favorite sayings, which is, if you want to go fast, go alone, but if you want to go far, go together. And I think that's the sort of notion that you know, you're fostering relationships. Like you reached out to me, and you know, I was featured on your podcast, and now I'm really delighted to host your webinar here. And you know, it's just kind of returning the favor, and by doing that we're both amplifying each other's business, you know, because I'm just delighted to bring what you're doing to my audience, and you know, you seem to feel the same in what you're doing with your podcast.
Yeah,
But that also kind of creates, you know, linkages between our websites, which is great from an SEO standpoint. And then, you know, we're both promoting it on social media, so there's a sort of an amplification that happens. And it's sort of, what I like about it is it's authentic, you know, it works. You know, it's not sort of, when we're not paying each other to do this, we're doing it because, you know, we like and respect each other, and it's, you know, we believe in that you this sort of thing works for both of us. So it's great. Really, you know, really appreciate you doing it. So last
yeah.
question for you. How can people get in touch with you and, you know, take advantage of what you do? What's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, I'm actually very active on LinkedIn. So if anybody is interested,
Yeah.
just look me up on LinkedIn, Rodney Hu or Rodney Hu Jr. And then I'll also share with my link with you as well, so you can just easily connect with me. Shoot me a message. I'm respond to everybody.
What we'll do is after this, we'll put a little screen on the end that says what your contact info, so they can get hold of you. All right,
Okay.
great. Rodney, thank you. Much appreciated. Really, thank you so much for doing this today.
No problem. Thank you, man. Catch you guys later.